In this part of the competition, you're taking on a fictional business identity and assigning a fictional business identity to the judges. Please make sure everyone knows who you are and why they are there before you begin. You will have 25 minutes with a 5-minute cushion, and I suggest that one of you set the timer to 30 minutes. That gives you not having to hear it go off at 25 if you've got another minute to talk. When you're, let's see, you will be uninterrupted during your presentation. Then when you're finished, we as judges will ask you questions. You've given us the role of the board. We'll ask you questions in that board of directors persona. And we will stay in character and you will stay in character, which means that you shouldn't be saying they, you should be saying you. Well, it's happened today that there were a lot of theys. Just wanted to simplify that. After that, we will give you feedback purely directed to helping you succeed tomorrow in the 10 minutes that you have for the next competition. There are some really important things that I need to pull out because some teams have been disqualified in the past for not adhering to them, even though I've said it and others have said it at the beginning. Under no circumstances use ethical jargon, right? You're going to be talking about ethical issues in simple business terms because you're talking to a board of directors and you don't want to throw out deontology, you don't want to throw out consequentialism or utilitarianism. That weakens this whole point is to get you practiced for how you speak to power. And that negates you if somebody feels you're lecturing to them or that you're talking down to them or that you're talking about a term that they have no clue what it is.
I have a question. So in the rules, it says that we should use frameworks.
But you don't need to label them as academic frameworks, and you don't even need to leave it. I mean, you need to consider that what you're doing isn't educating. Okay. What you're doing is responding to a problem that they've invited you to talk about. And so the framework has probably helped you be really effective in thinking about this. But you are professionals, and you are talking to them as professionals, and so you want to be speaking in business terms, and if there's a term that you were going to use, think about what it is in English, so that they hear you in English, and don't think academic or whatever and dismiss you.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the same way, don't use philosophical terminology or base your arguments on religious or theological grounds, because that's going to be a weakness for a business ethics competition. Okay? That's not changing anything you already know, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Similarly, any member of the team reading his or her own part, it'll be considered a mistake. So, of course, you can use notes. During the presentation, every member of the team must have some sort of speaking role. Now, obviously, you've all worked really hard, and you put in a huge amount of time, I can just tell, as can the judges. So what we want is for you to be comfortable and know that our only purpose is we want you to succeed. We're not going to applaud after you give your thing, because that isn't what a board situation does. But know that our whole point is to support you in accomplishing what you came here to do. And all questions are intended for that purpose. And I can't think of anything else, so if that's it, then I'm going to set our clock for 30. And there may be very disruptive noise that we had no control over that is extremely unfortunate, so I apologize in advance. All right.
Hello, everyone. We're so very grateful to be here today. Thank you for inviting us in. Just take a brief minute to introduce ourselves. I'm Michelle Allison, and these are my colleagues, Sarah Feaster, Evan Adams, and John Patrick Murray. Again, we're very excited for the opportunity today to meet with you and discuss the situation your company has been facing, as well as the insights that we have gleaned when we researched your situation, as well as our recommendations for you as you move forward as a company. Very excited to be here. So before we begin our in-depth analysis, we just want to take a quick step back. We want to take a quick step back, and we want to think about the question, why are we here today? Why are we meeting? Why did you call us? What made you pick up the phone and ask us for help? I think we know what happened. The public learned that Mylan had raised the price of the EpiPen. The price went up 15 times, over 400% during an 8-year period. Additionally, your margins went up right along with the price. The margins went from about 9% to about 55% from the period of 2008 to 2014. And the media took this information and they ran with it. They portrayed your company in such a negative light. A recent public opinion poll, the pharmaceutical industry, Americans view the pharmaceutical industry, the only industry lower than that they see is the federal government. I know, right? How does that make you feel? That's not ideal for a company, for your public opinion, for your reputation. So why such an adverse view? What happened? Why did the media just run with this negative story? The problem is deeper than just a price increase. Mylan is actually a microcosm of your industry in general, of the pharmaceutical industry. And your industry in general has been facing a lot of backlash from the public and from the market. And a lot of this backlash can be seen in the slew of lawsuits that your company is facing. Now, the next time you look at your 10K, turn to Note 18. You will see pages of legal issues, antitrust lawsuits, allegations of anti-competitive practices, settlements, as well as patent issues. Now, in the pharmaceutical industry, you tend to see this as a cost of doing business. Unfortunately, this is not how the public sees it. What the public sees in this situation, unfortunately, is corporate greed. And Halcyon Consulting has to side with the public in this issue. The pharmaceutical industry has exploited the legal system for years. For example, let's look at your settlement with Teva Pharmaceuticals. Teva had a generic ready to go to market, and there was lawsuits pending. However, you settled. Now, this settlement predated the Supreme Court decision, FTC versus Actavis. That decision essentially makes these pay-to-delay type settlements potential violations of antitrust laws due to potential anti-competitive practices. But this is something that has been industry practice for years. But you need to think about how this makes you look to the public. You call this here because you're concerned about your image, so that's what we're here to address. Another problem with your image comes from these citizens' petitions that you utilize to delay entry of generics into market. We know that the author of the citizens' petition is Mylan, is you. The media knows this, and if the media knows it, the general public also knows it. And that doesn't make Mylan look good in the eyes of the general public. In fact, it makes them very upset. The public feels that they're being taken advantage of with these price increases. All they see is corporate greed. They see your settlement with the Department of Justice. Now, Mylan misclassified the EpiPen as a generic when it is in fact a brand name drug. And due to the rebate program, the Medicaid drug rebate program, the estimated payment that you owed to them was $530 million, but you settled for $465. And while you may think that there's no problem with that you actually made out okay, the public sees this as criminal. They see it as you taking advantage of the public trust. So, we really believe that the majority of your issues are due to your short-term focus. Halcyon's goal is to shift that focus, to make you consider the long-term perspective. Think about profits. We know that profits are important, but how you get there is also important. You need to earn your profits ethically. And Mylan needs to make a shift towards the anticipation of what's coming in the future, because global Globally, industries are shifting. They're moving towards more transparency, and they're moving towards ethical business practices. And pretty soon, ethical business practices will be the norm, even in the pharmaceutical industry. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, who's going to talk to you about the ethical issues.
Thank you, Michelle. So when we first looked at this case, we first put ourselves in the consumer's shoes. And when we did this, we realized that as of right now, your customers feel disregarded, disrespected, and not valued as human beings. So considering that perspective, we first used the virtues lens as our first framework when looking at this case. We believe that that Mylan needs to strive to become more honest, compassionate, as well as generous to help the future success of Mylan as a whole. We then use the Daniels Fund principles. Since we're from the Northern Colorado area, these principles are one of our primary, we refer to these as one of our primary ethical frameworks. As you can see from this list, things like integrity, trust, transparency, accountability, as well as the rest, are very important characteristics that we should all embody as humans, as well as Mylan as a company. And lastly, the rights approach. As Kant once said, humans are an end, not a means. We believe that people should not be manipulated as objects, but that these humans are We believe that humans have a fundamental right to choose their own life, as well as have these choices be respected by everyone. So why should we be ethical at all? Well, as of right now, Mylan values their profits more than the human lives that buy these EpiPens. We can buy an EpiPen right now for $630. But we both know that the cost of the actual drug, epinephrine, is much less in cost, as well as the high profits your company has been acquiring because of these high costs. This shows us that right now, Mylan values the premium profits rather than the consumers who are actually needing these products. And this also shows that Mylan has a focus on the bottom line rather than the lives of these consumers. That then goes into the next issue of how these consumers must buy this product. If someone goes into anaphylactic shock, they are reaching for their EpiPen right away. This is not a bag of chips. They cannot choose whether they want it or not based on the day of the week or their mood. So with that being said, by indirectly denying access to these products, Mylan is losing focus of their mission, which is why we are here today to help you. And that goes hand in hand with the next issue, which is the lack of transparency, trust, and integrity now that Mylan has. With the lack of trust, since this is such a popular issue, the oversaturation of the media coverage of this now shows us that when people hear Mylan, their first reaction is not a good one. They do not trust you anymore. And that goes with integrity and transparency as well. As Michelle mentioned earlier, the slew of lawsuits and settlements that you have been fighting definitely show that we are not on the same page with the consumers and how they should be our first interest. Also, with transparency, again with the settlements, it shows the lack of care for their customers. And lastly, the biggest issue is healthcare as a universal right. We believe at Halcyon that healthcare should be universal and given to everyone. It should not be auctioned off to the highest bidder. If you go into a hospital right now bleeding, they're gonna immediately take care of you first, then ask for payment later. So then we are on to the stakeholders. There are many affected parties here, as you can see, but the main ones I'm going to be talking about are the customers and the shareholders. However, we need to remember that Mylan's actions have very far-reaching consequences, and there also are stakeholders that are not mentioned above on this slide. So the first one are the shareholders. We understand you want to make money. We want you to make money as well, but you should also be ethical as well. Being ethical and being profitable are not mutually exclusive ideas, and we believe that you can make money while also respecting your customers. And that's the next biggest shareholder, the customers. Without people having these life-threatening diseases or issues with peanuts or any other allergies, they wouldn't even need an EpiPen at all. So we need to remember that these are the people that are giving us our funds. And eventually, if we continue on the path we're going, our customers will eventually boycott these and wait for the generics to come out because of the lack of integrity and respect we have for our consumers. We need to remember that human beings are ends in their own right, not a means for profit. And with that, I will hand it over to Evan.
Thanks, Sarah. So Michelle talked about earlier, why are we here? Why did you call us? And Sarah touched on several of the issues that we're facing within the company. We're here to help you with that. We need three main components to change here. First thing we need is a cultural overhaul. This is going to start at the high-level employees and trickle down to all of the other people, but it's more than that. This is going to start a trend in the industry where you're the first mover, which Rory will touch on that later here, but the first mover in industry to bring ethics to wrestle the beast of the pharmaceutical industry. The next thing we need is an ethical checklist for the major decisions, such as price increase. So when we think of a price increase, we look at the revenues this is going to bring. We look at the costs that are driving that. How is this going to affect basically every line on the income statement, and how is this going to hit the balance sheet as well? There's one other component that we need to look at. That's the ethical component. How is that account going to be affected? Where are the ethics with each decision that's being made from this company? The last thing we need is leadership that can anticipate moves further in the future. We need to be able to see sooner and scan wider throughout the industry to let us know where this company is moving forward. On to the next, we need the renewed focus on the ultimate stakeholders to rigorously adhere to the company values and to enhance ethics in the standard in the pharmaceutical industry. So we're sitting around in a group, we're trying to figure out how can we help you? How can we help Mylan figure out the best resources and the best way to move this company forward in an ethical manner? And we don't tie in low. We're looking all around finding these, but we did find them. We found them. Where did we find them? On your company website. Let me read you your company mission. At Mylan, we are committed to setting new standards in healthcare, working together around the world to provide 7 billion people access to high-quality medicine. We innovate to satisfy unmet needs, make reliability and service excellence a habit. This one's my favorite. Do what's right, not what's easy. Impact the future through passionate global leadership. Let's look at the core values. Reliability, integrity, teamwork, service, innovation. Let's take a minute to reflect at the innovation you all have experienced in the last several years. The breakthroughs with distribution, research, and development. Let's just step out of this. Look at all the good. What have we done so far that's made people help with it? EpiPen's one of them. That's a life-saving drug, life-saving technology. But you've also been innovative in other ways. You've been innovative in your pricing strategies. Your pricing strategies to run up the price. And those prices are reflecting and being depressed down on society as a whole. It's not just the consumers. It's not just the people who need this drug, the insurance companies. These are trickling down, affecting everybody. So we think we need to add a core value. Accountability. We want a sixth core value, if you will. Because without accountability, the reliability and integrity, the innovation, teamwork and service, they're all just words. Words on a screen. So add the innovation, but hold yourselves accountable for that. From here, I'm going to pass it off to Murray. He's going to discuss some of the more issues, the financial, economic issues, as well as some of the challenges as we face with this.
Thank you, Evan. Now, we at Halcyon believe that there's three primary challenges that you're going to face with what we're suggesting. The first one, obviously, is management buy-in. Not everyone's going to buy this at first. It's going to be a difficult sell. It's not something that's going to be just automatically accepted and acknowledged as to be. It's going to take some time to sell that. The second is the shareholders. Obviously, with a big move and big change like this, shareholders are going to oppose it. It's going to be a difficult thing for that as well. Lastly, you've got industry norms. What we're suggesting is quite the opposite of the industry norm currently. But that's where the joy of you being first movers comes in. Yes, being a first mover introduces a lot of risk. It's a very difficult thing to push forward. However, it puts you in the front. It allows you to define the new industry norms. It allows you to move the industry into that new norm. It allows you to be innovative and set those new standards. Now we move on into the financial and the economic issues. We at Halcyon believe that the worst thing you can do is nothing at all. This is because your industry currently is experiencing a market failure. When someone goes out and tries to purchase a product, they expect there to be product A, product B, product C, so on. However, when they look at epinephrine, there's only A. As Michelle's mentioned, you've done your best to combat and fight down all those generic products to where, to the customer's eyes, they don't exist. They may hold at 2 to 5% of the market, but when someone's looking for that epinephrine to save their life from that allergic reaction, they're not reaching for the generic brand of epinephrine, they're thinking EpiPen. They're reaching for that EpiPen. This attitude and way of behavior is not sustainable in the long run. With the aging population, you've got to look at the younger generations and the way they think and their mindsets. They're all coming up and they don't like this. They don't agree with it. They think there needs to be a new move and a new way to push into it. There's also the fact that technology is, especially in the medical field, is evolving, it's moving, it's going forward, there's change. And we encourage you to embrace that change and to move forward with it. Another thing, the last thing that we really see that the younger generations push is a move towards ethical practices in all industries, not just a select few, but all of them. And we believe we currently are seeing, that the next major push on the industry is the pharmaceutical industry. That shift will happen, and those ethical practices will need to be put into place. So we have a question for you. Do you want to be in the front of that change, or do you want to have to play catch-up? Do you want to define those norms, or do you want to obey someone else's norms? But that leads into our ultimate question, one that you heard at the beginning. Why? Why does myelin exist? Why do you exist?
Thank you, Brian. Why do you exist? What's the point? What's the point of myelin, all of you here today? What's the point of the entire pharmaceutical industry? It's to save lives, to reach those 7 billion people you were talking about on your website, to help them so that they can rely on you every single day, day and night. I have another question though. Why are you guys here today? Why would you be here calling this? What wakes you up in the morning? Or what keeps you up at night? What do you do every day to change the world, to make it a better place? What kind of world do we want our kids to inherit? Because today's youth are tomorrow's decision makers. Now, we can't send you a bill for our services in good faith if we stand up here and preach some frameworks. That's for us. That's us maintaining our transparency. That's not for you. You don't care about that. We can't in good faith. I guess my question is, what's the traditional approach to handling these? You call up a consulting firm and say, hey, we've got a disaster on our hands. We need some serious PR cleanup. We need some clever PR releases. We need some good Facebook posts. We need to sweep all this under the rug and act like it never happened. We don't do that here. We hold each other accountable. We hold you, as I stand in front of you, the board of myelin, accountable for what we're doing to make the world a better place. So our consulting services don't consist of clever PR releases. It consists of transparency and accountability. So think about that, because the decision you make in this room right now, today, dictates how we move forward. Are you going to kick us out of the room and call up, hey, we need a clever PR release? Or are you going to make a difference in the world? A positive difference. One that's better, where the kids can grow up in and prosper in the future. I'd be happy to answer any questions from here you may have.